Tonight, the West Nile virus appears to have reached the West Coast 3 years after arriving in this country on the East Coast. Doctors say they may have discovered the first known case in the state of California. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says the number of cases is likely to climb farther as West Nile season peaks. And Congress today traveled to New York City to pay tribute to the victims of September 11th. We begin tonight with Kate Snow in Lower Manhattan.
Lou, about 300 members of Congress made the train ride from Washington, D.C. to show their support for New York City.
President Bush began trying to win international support to remove Saddam Hussein from power, and he will continue to do so this weekend.
Saddam Hussein has not been allowed to buy weapons since 1991, but he still managed to buy them on the black market.
The weekend's on a positive note on Wall Street. The Dow Industrials finished 144 points higher. The Nasdaq gains 44.
Also tonight, a hurricane watch is in effect for parts of Texas. Tropical storm Faye is on the verge of becoming the first Atlantic hurricane of the season. We'll have the very latest for you.
This is Lou Dobbs Moneyline for Friday, September 6th. Here now, Lou Dobbs.
Good evening. Tonight, the West Nile virus outbreak may have spread across the entire country. Health officials in California are now investigating a probable case of West Nile infection. A young woman was treated for meningitis, which is associated with the virus. She has since recovered. If confirmed, it would mean that the virus has completed its journey across the continent. West Nile virus has virtually exploded across the country over just the past month, spreading from 5 states to 29. The number of human infections and deaths have increased more than 8-fold. And as of this broadcast, 854 people have been infected by the virus. 43 of them have died. And federal health officials say the number of infections is likely to peak well above 1,000. Also tonight, health officials are trying to trace blood donated to two West Nile virus victims. They are trying to determine whether the disease can be transmitted through blood. With no screening test available, there is concern that West Nile virus could be spread through the blood supply undetected. Some 300 members of Congress today traveled to New York City in a move draped in symbolism. They met at Federal Hall for the second time in more than 200 years. Kate Snow joins me now from Lower Manhattan with the story for us. Kate?
Lou, joining you from right next to the New York Stock Exchange. As you mentioned, about half of the members of Congress boarding a train in Washington, D.C., headed up on an Amtrak to New York's Penn Station today, a special train just for them. The main event at Federal Hall here in downtown New York on Wall Street. They held a special commemorative session inside Federal Hall. This, the site where George Washington took the oath of office, also where Congress first met back in 1789. Today, it was a site for remembrance and for recognition of the heroism of New York.
1 year ago, this great center of history, enterprise, and creativity suffered the gravest of cruelties and showed itself to be a place of valor and generosity and grace. Here, where so many innocent lives were suddenly taken, the world saw acts of kindness and heroism that will be remembered forever.
So what happened on September 11th did not diminish our strength. It renewed it. We stand united today as proud citizens of the oldest and strongest democracy on earth. Our faith in that democracy and in our future is absolute and unshakable.
After the meeting, the lawmakers headed down about 4 blocks to the site where the World Trade Center once stood, known as Ground Zero, for a wreath-laying ceremony. That's the last event on their calendar today. Before that, they had a luncheon hosted by the mayor of New York City, Michael Bloomberg. At that luncheon, he thanked Congress for its support for New York, for its financial support in particular. He was also given, Lou, a flag, a United States flag that flew over the U.S. Capitol back on September 11th of last year. That flag will be used as part of a permanent memorial at the World Trade Center site. Back to you.
Kate Snow, thank you. President Bush today continued to make the case to overthrow Saddam Hussein. He talked with French President Jacques Chirac and the leaders of both China and Russia. This weekend, he will meet with British Prime Minister Tony Blair at Camp David. White House correspondent Suzanne Malveaux joins us now and has the report. Suzanne?
Well, President Bush left the White House this afternoon, headed to Camp David. He is going to be meeting with British Prime Minister Tony Blair to discuss Iraq. It is a discussion that some White House aides say is critical. The two leaders share the resolve in overthrowing Saddam Hussein. As you know, Britain is the only country, with the exception of Israel, that has expressed any type of support in regime change and the possibility of using military action. The president has yet to make his case to all other U.S. allies, but he is beginning to do just that. It was earlier this morning that the president made phone calls to French President Jacques Chirac, China's Jiang Zemin, and Russian President Vladimir Putin. White House spokesperson Ari Fleischer saying those calls lasted for about 10 minutes apiece, that the focus was really to show that the president will continue to consult with allies, that he values their opinions. He reiterated that Saddam Hussein is a threat to the world, also reiterated that the administration has not decided how to handle that threat, whether or not it would use military action. But as you know, all three leaders have expressed a great deal of reservation about using military action. They are from countries that are permanent members of the UN Security Council. They can veto any type of resolution that comes across that is not to their liking. Now, White House aides are telling us that they did not expect that the president was going to sway any opinions or change any minds, and the president did not. This is the reaction from the calls shortly afterwards. The spokesperson for the Russian president says Vladimir Putin, and I'm quoting, expressed serious doubts regarding the grounds for the use of force in relation to Iraq in terms of both international law and global politics. A spokeswoman for French President Jacques Chirac told reporters, and I'm quoting here, "It is up to the Security Council to take appropriate measures. They should be debated at that time." Now, the president is going to take his case. He's going to make it before the international community on Thursday. He's going to go before the United Nations General Assembly and do just that, saying that Saddam Hussein must be dealt with and that the credibility of the United Nations is on the line. Lou?
Suzanne Malveaux at the White House. Thank you. Saddam Hussein has, of course, been banned from buying weapons since the end of the Gulf War more than a decade ago. But that hasn't stopped munitions and weapons parts from being smuggled into Iraq. Kitty Pilgrim reports.
Back in the 1980s, Iraq was one of the largest importers of arms in the world, spending billions. Major suppliers were Russia and France. Since the imposition of UN sanctions over the last decade, Iraq has not been able to buy arms on the open market. But that has not stopped it from smuggling and dealing in arms clandestinely.
Periodically, Iraq will hold a military parade, and they held one last year where they had more surface-to-air missiles out in the parade than some analysts had thought they had had. That led analysts to believe that they've been getting them from somewhere, probably Serbia, who has a lot of surplus missiles.
Hoyt also mentions reports that China has assisted in providing fiber optics communication equipment, which could make air defenses stronger. The defense publication Jane cites a report in 2000 of Iraq buying spare parts for T-72 tanks and other equipment. Quote, according to a report in January 2000, Iraq has been buying military spare parts from Russia through front companies in the United Arab Emirates. The parts were shipped from Dubai to Basra, unquote.
They also get them from a number of other places. They get some Chinese weapons, they get American small arms, they get Israeli small arms, British, French. Whoever has them, they can get them.
Iraq would be outgunned in a conventional battle. Iraqi tanks are old Soviet models, T-72s, which were state-of-the-art in the 1980s, but seriously obsolete even during the Gulf War. The Iraqi aircraft are Vietnam-era MiGs and Mirages, originally supplied by the Soviet Union and France. The Iraqi Navy was basically sunk in 1991 and not rebuilt.
At this point, they don't have any more than 1/3 of the total combat power that they had during the Gulf War in the early 1990s.
Now, military experts emphasize that the arms embargo has worked. Even though Iraq has been able to smuggle in some munitions, the heavy military equipment has been impossible to procure. At least in conventional arms, Iraq is outgunned. Lou?
Kitty, thank you very much. Iraq's neighbor Iran is also building up its military capabilities. Today, Iran announced that it had test-fired a new ballistic missile. Experts say that that missile could be capable of carrying a nuclear warhead. Iran is believed to have received missile technology from Russia, from China, and North Korea. That is, however, denied by Iran. 3 men accused of being members of a sleeper terrorist cell in this country were arraigned in Detroit today. The 3 men each pleaded not guilty to charges of conspiracy to provide material support or resources to terrorists. All 3 men were indicted last week. A 4th man has also been charged. He is not yet in custody. Security forces in Afghanistan have detained 17 men for questioning about the attempted assassination of President Hamid Karzai. New video of the Kandahar shooting was released today. President Karzai escaped injury, but the governor of Kandahar province was wounded. A U.S. Special Forces soldier providing security was also injured in the firefight. American Special Operations troops killed the gunman. They also killed 2 other people carrying weapons. One of them was an Afghan bodyguard, the other apparently a bystander. A U.S. Navy helicopter today crashed in the Persian Gulf. A civilian cameraman filming Navy operations there was killed in the crash. The 4 crew members were rescued. The accident happened in the northern Persian Gulf, about 80 miles from the Iranian coast. The helicopter crashed after hitting the mast of a merchant ship that was being boarded by the Navy. The cameraman worked for a Los Angeles television station. Israeli forces today shot dead 2 Palestinians in the West Bank. Palestinian witnesses said Israeli soldiers raided a hideout in the town of Jenin and killed the 2 men. The Israeli army said it spotted 2 armed Palestinians during a curfew and killed them in a gun battle. There is a new weather danger growing in the Gulf of Mexico tonight. Tropical storm Faye is gaining strength and it is threatening to become a hurricane as soon as tomorrow evening. Hurricane warnings, in fact, have been posted for parts of Texas, and tropical storm warnings are in effect for some 250 miles of the Texas and Louisiana coastlines. Faye is sitting about 90 miles south of Galveston, Texas right now. The storm is slowly moving toward shore, whipping up waves and raising tide levels. Forecasters warn that Faye could spawn tornadoes as well in the region, and some areas could receive as much as 15 inches of rain. Residents of Russia are breathing a bit easier tonight. Rain has cut through a thick cloud of smog hanging over Moscow. That smog, the result of several wildfires that have been burning all around the city. Despite the rain, carbon monoxide levels in Moscow were still more than twice above acceptable levels, and people were still being urged to remain indoors. Typhoon Senlaku slammed into northern Taiwan earlier today. The high winds and heavy rains forced the evacuation of some 100 people. 2 others are reported missing. The typhoon's high winds have been clocked at 180 miles an hour. Rail and air traffic has been halted, and Taiwan's stock market was closed throughout the day because of the storm. Sicily is recovering from its strongest earthquake in 2 decades. The 5.6 magnitude quake struck this morning. 3 people were injured. 2 elderly people died after suffering heart attacks. Several historic buildings in the capital of Palermo were damaged. The earthquake was followed by more than 70 aftershocks. Well, in this country, a decline in the unemployment rate lifted stock prices on Wall Street today. Stocks closed out the week with a solid rally. The Dow, in fact, posting its 4th triple-digit move, and this one higher. The Dow Jones Industrial's up nearly 144 points. The Nasdaq surged 44 points. The S&P 500 gained 15 points. We'll have complete coverage of the market later in the broadcast. Still ahead, retirement is often described as a golden time. Former General Electric Chairman Jack Welch is proving just how golden those times can be. Hundreds of thousands of police officers are struggling to make ends meet. We'll have a special report for you on one of this country's lowest paying professions and one of its most important jobs. The author of The War Against America tells us why she thinks Iraq was involved in the September 11th attacks and the bomb attack on the World Trade Center in 1993. That and a great deal more still ahead here. Stay with us.
Next time you're on the road and you need to fill your tank, here's something to consider. New Shell gasoline is specially formulated to help prevent deposit buildup in your engine, which helps keep it clean. And a clean engine performs better, which is why when they're looking for more from their gasoline, so many drivers choose Shell.
Sean Edward, whether you believe in him or not, he's TV's psychic phenomenon, and he's taking your calls tonight, 9 Eastern, on Larry King Live.
AT&T Broadband.
Digital cable.
The invasion has begun.
Watch this! G4, the only television network dedicated to video games and the people who play them. G4, we're here. Get used to it.
Upgrade to digital cable from AT&T Broadband and catch the gaming invasion on G4 TV.
Get ready to rock with Lifetime Television and Marie Claire's 3rd annual Women Rock Girls and Guitars concert. Join the hottest stars in one unforgettable night to help stop breast cancer for life. Enter to win a trip for 2 to LA for the taping of Women Rock, airfare, hotel accommodations, a winter party, and more. The legends of female rock together on one night for one cause. Women Rock Girls and Guitars concert. Here's how to enter.
Go to your local Clark's Discount Service Center for your chance to go to the biggest benefit concert of the year.
This is CNN.
Former President Clinton wants the Bush administration to finish the job with Osama bin Laden before taking on Saddam Hussein. At a fundraising event in Orange County, California, Clinton said, quote, Saddam Hussein didn't kill 3,100 people on September 11th. Osama bin Laden did, and as far as we know, he's still alive, end quote. Mr. Clinton said he did not have access to current intelligence information about Iraq, but he said news reports suggest al-Qaeda remains a threat. Speculation continues that Iraq might have been involved in the September 11th terrorist attacks against the United States. If proven, it is a theory that would provide a compelling case for U.S. military action against Iraq. Researcher, author Laurie Milroy says it's inconceivable that the al-Qaeda could have carried out the September 11th attacks alone. She also says there's an Iraq connection to the first World Trade Center bombing back in 1993. Laurie Milroy joins us now. Good to have you here.
My pleasure.
In your new book, you suggest this connection and principally focusing on the first attacks against the World Trade Center. What is your best evidence of that fact?
Well, that's what New York law enforcement believed back in 1993, particularly New York FBI. Why? Because there are Iraqis all around the fringe of the plot. One of them is an indicted fugitive who fled to Baghdad, and he remains there today. Secondly, Jim Fox, who headed New York FBI, recognized that the people he was arresting in the immediate wake of the bombing, like the 26-year-old Palestinian Mohammed Salama, who returned to the deposit on his van that had carried the bomb, these people alone were not capable of carrying out such a massive attack. And the ease of their arrest suggested to Fox a conspiracy masterminded by others, with those people left behind to take the blame. Finally, one can demonstrate that the mastermind of that bomb, Ramzi Yousef, is an Iraqi intelligence agent because of documents altered in Kuwait while Iraq occupied Kuwait.
Why then, with this your principal evidence arising from New York law enforcement authorities, as well as local authorities, as well as federal, Laurie, why in the world didn't the Clinton administration react?
Well, Clinton did react when he attacked Iraqi intelligence headquarters in June of 1993 with cruise missiles. He believed that that would take care of the Iraqi terrorist threat if New York FBI was correct in its suspicions about Iraq, that strike would deter Iraq from all further terrorist attacks against the United States, not just the attempt to kill George Bush. And this is something I cautioned Martin Indyk about when Indyk was was NSC advisor in the Middle East. It was December '94, and I cautioned him that one strike on an empty building would not stop Saddam forever.
And indeed, as we know, nothing much has stopped Saddam Hussein. Let me read something that you wrote in the National Review, if I may, Laurie, and we can put this up for our viewers to read at the same time. It is inconceivable that al-Qaeda alone could have pulled off the most lethal terrorist attacks in human history. Indeed, U.S. forces have found virtually no documents in Afghanistan related to 9/11 or other terrorist strikes on America. That suggests the terrorist attacks were planned elsewhere. The fact of the matter is that may suggest to you that they were not that they were planned somewhere else. But CNN, other news organizations as well, in fact, have now found al-Qaeda tapes talking very specifically about the terrorism they're going to conduct against the United States. Does that in any way mitigate, in any way change your view?
Not really. At the time that that article was written, there had been one document, a draft of the letter that was used by the Arab journalist to get in and assassinate Ahmed Shah Massoud. But not really. There should be much more documentation regarding the preparations for 9/11. But more to the point, you know, it used to be prior to the 1993 attack on the World Trade Center that major terrorist strikes against the United States were assumed to be state-sponsored. For all practical purposes, that meant Iraq, Iran, Syria, and Libya. And it was with the Trade Center bombing in '93, 1 month into Clinton's first term in office, that the notion was developed that there was a new kind of terrorism that didn't involve states. Well, that's a notion that's specifically associated with the Clinton administration. It really does not make a lot of sense to think that Osama bin Laden and Al-Qaeda are more capable of a major terrorist attack like 9/11 than a terrorist state, whether Iraq, Iran, Syria, or Libya.
Lori, I want to ask you, as we wrap up here, and I want to point out to our viewers that you were a former advisor to President Clinton as he campaigned in 1992, received your doctorate from Harvard, and the president today, the former president, being quoted saying that we should take on the job of completing the hunt for Osama bin Laden before taking on Saddam Hussein. What is your reaction to that statement?
I think that Clinton is in a very strong state of denial. He personally, by the way he handled the terrorism that began on his watch, bears responsibility for the deaths of 3,000 Americans on September 11.
That's a very strong statement. Why so?
Because he dealt dishonestly with the terrorism. He believed he'd taken care of it, as I described, by the strike on Iraqi intelligence headquarters, and allowed the criminal process, the legal process, to go ahead, created a false and fraudulent explanation for terrorism, and it kept happening over and over again. I think the reason he didn't take care of Saddam is because he was afraid, just as he said. If you attack Saddam, Saddam will use those weapons, and it seemed easier just to let the terrorism continue. And I think they also assumed Saddam couldn't do anything very serious to the United States, and even if he could, he wouldn't dare because of the U.S. response.
Lori Milroy, thank you very much for being with us.
My pleasure, thank you.
On Monday, we'll continue to look at further possible connections with Iraq, in this case in the 1995 bombing of the Alfred Murray Federal Building in Oklahoma City. We'll be talking with Jana Davis. She will be here to tell us why she now believes an Iraqi terror cell was both operating in Oklahoma City and that it was directly connected to Iraqi intelligence. That's Monday. Coming up next here, lawmakers on Capitol Hill making a very big deal about the allocation of IPOs by Wall Street firms. But some of those very same lawmakers are not telling us how they may have received some of those very same shares. Former General Electric CEO Jack Welch is one of the country's richest. We'll tell you how his employer continues to maintain his opulent lifestyle even in retirement. And in tonight's Editor's Circle, we'll be talking with Jim Ellis of Business Week, Rick Kirkland of Fortune, and Paul Maidman of Forbes magazine. Stay with us.
PCS Vision from Sprint. Now your employees can connect with the office network when they're away, right from a PCS phone. Exchange email, contacts, and calendars just like on a computer, instantly.
You mean
I couldn't have said it better myself.
Introducing PCS Vision from Sprint. See the power behind the PCS Clear Wireless Workplace.
Tired of playing the mortgage rate game? You know, when you hear one of those ads that promise you the moon and you call up only to find out that the points are too high and there are hidden fees attached? Well, at ditech.com, there are no games. Right now, we're offering a second mortgage with a no closing cost option. You can be pre-qualified over the telephone or online. Use the money to pay off credit cards or for home improvements, whatever you want. Do it now before the rates go up. ditech.com. Call 1-800-71-FIXED.
Visit Weston.com, member of Starwood Preferred Guest.
In the next 30 seconds, more than a dozen Americans will turn 65. Even more will turn 55. But can they afford to retire? Only time will tell. Are you ready? Learn how to provide for your retirement by logging on to GEFinancial.com and make it more interesting. Enter GE Financial's retirement sweepstakes. You could win $250,000. Now, what are you waiting for?
America Decides, and CNN is there with the latest news straight from the campaign trail. For complete coverage from the most experienced team of reporters and analysts anywhere, stay up to the minute. Stay with CNN as America Decides.
Congressional committees have been kept very busy this summer investigating all sorts of questionable business practices and questionable business people. Those same committees have been looking into everything from Martha Stewart to the special favors given executives who bought IPOs. One thing Congress hasn't looked at so far, the investing habits of its own membership. Peter Viles, however, has.
Congress spent the summer hassling Martha Stewart and investigating Wall Street, still broadening the Jack Grubman probe into how Wall Street decides which investors get shares of IPOs. But one area Congress is not looking at, the investing habits of its own members. John LaFalce has led the charge in the IPO probe. He's also bought IPO shares himself. The stock was Healthcare Services in 1995. Did he get special access to the deal? His office says no way, and that he lost money on it anyway. Other IPO investors on Capitol Hill include Senator Barbara Boxer and her husband. They bought Avenue A, and the wife of Senator Jeff Bingaman of New Mexico bought Avenex. There's no specific suggestion any of them benefited from special treatment, but favoritism is undeniably a big part of the IPO game. So one citizens group wants Congress to swear off IPO investing entirely.
It does seem to me that IPOs are a different animal. They're not just calling up your stockbroker and deciding you want to invest in, a blue chip stock for your future retirement or whatever. These are special deals that you can only get in on if you know somebody and if you are somebody. And then you can make a bundle.
Others believe, however, that once lawmakers report these IPO trades as required, voters can be trusted to police the issue.
I think, the best remedy for most of this is a dose of antiseptic disclosure. If it stands up to scrutiny, then it's fine. If not, they have to answer to their constituents.
Now, Congress is investigating a very specific aspect of the IPO game, specifically favoritism for executives who are also investment banking clients. No mention this summer of other kinds of favorism. For example, was there special favors for powerful mutual fund managers or perhaps for powerful members of Congress? Nobody's asking those questions in Washington, Lou.
Pete, thank you very much. Peter Biles. Well, Jack Welch has long been praised and studied as General Electric's legendary chief executive officer. Now the revered corporate leader is teaching his peers another valuable lesson, how to live very well in retirement. Greg Clarkin has the story.
At GE, they bring good things to life, and they'll help you live the good life for the rest of your life. If you're Jack Welch, that is. In a day and age when retirees are ushered quickly out the door, the generous and caring folks at GE are trying to make a difference, looking after their former revered CEO in his retirement, making sure he's housed, fed, and entertained in grand fashion. The GE board has showered Welch with a lavish package of perks, details of which are coming out now in his divorce case.
What was the board thinking when it agreed to all of this? The compensation committee should all quit.
Now, as for Jack, a retiree needs a roof over his head. GE is picking up the tab for a Central Park West apartment he can use. And a man's got to eat, so GE covers the cost of his meals at a 4-star restaurant in the building. Let's say Jack wants to cook. GE's got him covered there as well. They pay for the cost of the food and the wine. And hey, the place has to smell nice. You guessed it, GE pays for the flowers. Divorce lawyers who've seen it all say it's just another peek behind the curtain of corporate America.
The dirty underbelly of corporate life is now out in the open, and people are learning that while they're working, they get tremendous perks, apartments, cars, meals paid. But what they're finding out now is after you're not working anymore, you're getting tremendous apartments, cars, bills paid too, because they write their own ticket when they leave.
Welch has responded to the uproar, saying GE's market cap increased by about $400 billion during his tenure, pointing out that not only he, but the little guy, the retirees, and others all benefited. And as for some of the cost of this retirement package, the expenses associated with the Central Park West apartment alone, they're said to be in the neighborhood of $80,000 a month. Lou?
Well, this gives a whole new definition to the golden years, doesn't it?
It certainly does.
Great, thanks. Greg Clarkin. Now time to update our Enron Corporate America Criminal Scoreboard. No criminal charges tonight, so our scoreboard remains 19-1. The one change, number of days since Enron went bankrupt, 278. We're now joined by the senior folks of the nation's three top business magazines, Business Week, Fortune, and Forbes. Jim Ellis is here. He's Chief of Correspondence at Business Week. Paul Maidment is Executive Editor at Forbes. Rick Kirkland is the Managing Editor of Fortune magazine. Gentlemen, good to have you here.
Thank you.
Well, let's start out with these markets. We get to end the week on a positive note. Can we now be sanguine, relaxed, and say happy times are here again, Jim?
Not yet. I think that a lot of people still want to see some profits before they're willing to put money into the markets. I think that if we had a positive sign in employment today, but it's going to take a lot more. But I think a lot of people want to throw money into this.
Paul?
Oh yes, there's certainly lots of vulnerability points to the market and to the economy. It's by no means certain we're going to avoid a double dip recession. It's perfectly possible.
I don't know about a double dip, but the signals are still mixed and on the economy. And then there's the overhang of Iraq. And I think until those things are removed, it's going to be tough for the market to go anywhere but sideways.
Our viewer response here suggests a lot of concern about Iraq on a number of levels. Some of it is partisan, some of it is extraordinarily reasonable and thoughtful. But at this point, how much of an influence is the prospect of conflict with Iraq, in your judgment, in the market?
I don't know. It's hard to quantify, Lou. I mean, we know that there's an estimate that there's a $5 or $6 premium in the oil price right now because of that uncertainty. On the market, I just think it's hard to let the animal spirits rip when you've got the uncertainty of the huge spike in oil prices and geopolitical, tension and hanging over you because of it. So I don't know how you quantify it, but it's there.
I think that the big scare from Iraq is not in the market yet. I think that what happens is if we do something, the economy is only hanging on because of very strong consumer sentiment. And what happens if you sort of give people a reason to stop spending? And I think that that's when we really will have a problem. And I think that that's why Iraq could be the trigger to send this economy really tanking.
I think the other thing is that you remember back to the advance of the Gulf War 10 years ago, markets very nervous and falling ahead of it. The conflict started, the fighting started, markets recovered very strongly. The big difference this time round is that we'd have no idea what the end game is. It's clearly not going to be over in a few days, whatever happens, as it was in Q8. And all the questions of what the future shape of Iraq will be like afterwards, what the economic implications will be throughout the Middle East conflict, for world trade, for Western Europe, the amount of support America gets from Western Europe in going into the conflict. These are all huge uncertainties, and I think it is worrying the markets.
And we have the Arab world with us in that coalition, and they don't want to see this happen now. They're afraid of what their own street will do, so that's a big problem.
This is a curious thing to me because the Arab states 11 years ago in the Gulf War, while with us, were not particularly helpful beyond Saudi Arabia, which was providing bases, and of course Bahrain, Abu Dhabi. But the fact of the matter is, in this particular situation, isn't there a likelihood of greater uncertainty if there's a demonstration that Saddam Hussein does possess weapons of mass destruction and nothing is done about it?
That's what the president's doing right now. I mean, what may change this a little bit, at least in terms of sentiment about taking action against Iraq, is if he makes a case that shows us what he knows. And he hasn't done that. And he was quiet over the summer. He had his surrogates speaking and debating and warring. And now he's promising. He's meeting with Tony Blair this weekend. He's going to be talking up here in New York next week. And maybe we'll begin to see what the case is. And that could change sentiment.
But let's not forget that this part of the world isn't exactly the cradle of democracy. I think that a lot of the regimes there are worried about the instability that might come from within their own borders if people see a way to sort of topple dictators. So I don't think that they're completely sort of taking this simply because they don't want to get behind the United States.
I think also there's no sense, particularly in the Middle East, but also this is shared in Europe as well, that toppling Saddam is necessarily America's first priority compared to other things that have got to be sorted out in the Middle East, like the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. And now, I think Europeans certainly would agree that the world would be better off if there was a regime change. However, they, like the American people, are waiting to hear a clear and distinctive case about why Saddam should be the #1 priority. It may well be that the administration has very good evidence of Saddam's complicity in all sorts of terrorist attacks and backing al-Qaeda and the such like, but this needs to be laid out and a convincing case made.
It is interesting, to me at least, that Iraq, at this point, we hear this expression, regime change. The Bush administration has fathered it, if not, anyway, they've been using it remarkably, if not originally. I wouldn't be any more reassured if any regime in Iraq had weapons of mass destruction, even if they did change the regime. Would you, Jim?
No, I mean, I think that that's a fairly unstable part of the world. I also think that we have learned now that governments, even those that seem to have secure control of their borders, don't really seem to control their people very well. And so even if we are able to take out one regime, that doesn't necessarily mean we can take over all the factions, or at least have all the factions in that country behind where we want to take the country.
And even talking of Iraq as a country is rather dubious. I mean, one of the big things that's not being talked about at all, at least on this side of the Atlantic, is what the shape of Iraq after any successful military intervention by the Americans, and what are you going to do with Kurds? Are you going to support an independent state there? If so, will you support their claims in Turkey, a key American ally? There's lots of really complicated unknowns about the endgame of what's going to happen there. And I mean, that's the reason why economies and markets are very, very worried and uncertain about it.
The scary analogy is Yugoslavia. I mean, it just rips apart even after he goes.
Well, there is plenty to provide sufficient anxiety about much of the Middle East these days. Let's turn to another regime change. That is General Electric. As Greg Clarkin just reported on some extraordinary lists of perks that Jack Welch enjoys. Anybody here surprised that GE is providing this amazing list?
It was a shocker. I mean, what does Warren Buffett call his corporate jet? The indefensible. It's just, there's just no good case you can make for it. I mean, it's true, Jack was an incredible manager and he delivered enormous shareholder return, as he pointed out in his statement today. But, there's a restaurant here in New York, the Lone Star Cafe, the slogan used to be "too much ain't enough." I mean, that obviously was the view of the GE board, and it's just absurd.
I'm going to speak in its defense here, not for the absolute little minutiae, which, I mean, there's a lot of ridiculous stuff in there. But, there is clearly a brand equity in Jack Welch which pays dividends to GE. It is not at all uncommon, as we all know, in the corporate world for chief executives to live an extremely lavish life of perks and things like this. And it's also, there's going to be a lot of talk about the value of this package, and the true cost to GE of it may be far less than the market costs. Seats at Wimbledon, very nice perk for any chief executive, retired or not. They're probably free to GE because, after all, they broadcast it.
How about flying the GE Boeing 737 business jet to Wimbledon to watch it?
Well,
would you
if he's doing it,
$85,000 a month of apartment expenses.
But
he's retired, Paul. The thing
I want you to think about this. You sure you want to defend this brand?
No, I'm just laying out some. I'm slightly playing devil's advocate here, but nevertheless, I would lay out some cases. Also, remember, this deal was struck in '96 when there was a great deal of concern that he would leave the company. They wanted to have an incentive to keep him to 65. And this is the price they paid.
This is the danger of what happened in the '90s is we sort of threw common sense aside, and we have basically turned CEOs into stars, rock stars, and want to pay them as such. We can't do that. We have to realize that this is shareholders' money we're talking about.
And at the end of the day, CEOs are just hired help no matter what they think.
The real thing, this should have
I'm
come
about
out
to hear from 75 Rockefeller Center. But anyway.
This should have come out in the boardroom, not the courtroom, though.
Got it. Gentlemen, thanks. Great to have you here. Have a great weekend. Coming up next, the markets, the day, optimism reigns. The major indexes, however, for the week, a little down. Christine Romans will have all of the details for us on the market. And America's police officers face danger on our streets every day. They earn some of the lowest wages in the nation. Stay with us.
What they do is everything's over. Fred, who knew one cup of coffee could do that much damage?
Fred, is a printer supposed to smoke like that?
Hey, Fred, I think I fried the motherboard and the fatherboard, too.
Dealing with technology is hard. That's why CDW makes buying it as simple as possible by having brand name technology products in stock so you can get what you need when you need it.
Fred, where are you going? My email's still down.
CDW, the right technology right away.
You got one vanilla cone. Did you want sprinkles on that?
Yeah, sprinkles would be great.
Lost your wallet? We'll help you replace any major credit card 24/7. When you carry American Express traveler's checks, so you can get back to your vacation.
Sprinkles.
Consider this. New Shell gasoline is specially formulated to help prevent deposits in your engine. And a clean engine performs better. Is it any wonder then why so many drivers choose Shell?
The Market is sponsored by Genuity, managed internet services to keep your network secure. Log on to money.com/markets to stay on top of all the stock market action.
Yeah, the network's switching over now.
Network, what's going on?
Take a look, shall we?
The phone lines are down.
Voice, you take over. Switching to data. 3, 2. Got it.
Want to keep your business up and running? Genuity's Black Rocket combines voice and data on a single secure network. Genuity.
The unemployment rate fell to the lowest level in 5 months. The unemployment rate falling to 5.7% in August, down from 5.9% the previous month. 39,000 jobs were created last month. That's the fourth straight month the economy did add jobs. Hiring in construction, the service sector, and the government's hiring of airport security workers contributing to most of those gains. That decline in the unemployment rate helped boost stock prices today, but a triple-digit gain for the Dow, not sufficient to lift blue chips higher on the week. The Dow for the week down nearly 3%. The Nasdaq fell 1.5%. The S&P 500 down more than 2% on the week. Christine Romans is at the New York Exchange to bring us up to date on the market. Christine?
Hi there, Lou. It was a down week, but there were some winners today. At the big board, Citigroup was active and General Motors rallied after Bear Stearns gave it rosier earnings targets. AOL rose to a 2-week high with other beaten down techs, and retailers rallied. That reverses yesterday's sell-off. Home Depot, Lou, was the top Dow performer on the week. Now, chip stocks soared. Investors cheered Intel's mid-quarter update, essentially glad the news wasn't worse. In fact, all 5 of the most active NASDAQ stocks were higher today. But there was a bearish outlook from bond fund manager Bill Gross. He says the Dow should be at 5,000, the S&P at 650, and the NASDAQ at, quote, God knows where. Until then, Lou, he recommends buying bonds. Back to you.
Christine, I'm not sure I heard you right.
That's what he said. Bill Gross, a bond fund manager, recommending buying bonds.
I got that part. It was those index levels that I wasn't quite sure I heard correctly. The
He's
Dow at
5,000, NASDAQ at God knows where, and the S&P at 650. He says that the markets are trading at high multiples to earnings, and those are phony earnings to begin with.
Well, Bill is not is not reticent in any case, but he is also a man of some considerable stature. Those are concerning words. Christine Romans, thank you very much. Still ahead here, the Dobbs report. I'll have your reaction to my commentary last night calling for Augusta to end its exclusion of women. Also, police work has never been known for its high wages, certainly, but what may surprise you is just how low those wages in fact are for some officers. That story, a great deal more, still ahead. Stay with us.
Lou Dobbs Moneyline is brought to you by the NASDAQ 100 Index, the companies moving the world forward.
I think in order to run a company today, you have to have the ability to inspire others. Success is not an entitlement, it has to be earned.
We had a great dream to be the leading computer systems company in the world. First, my parents were pretty upset with me when I dropped out of college, but after a while they got over it.
When I first came to Microsoft, my father asked me what software was. My mother asked a more interesting question. Why would a person ever need a computer.
I am still as inspired today as I was when I first joined the company.
A leader today needs to have a distinct view of where the business is heading, as well as a tremendous passion for getting there.
But it takes courage, it takes an entrepreneurial spirit, it takes vision.
As I look 5, 10, 15 years into the future, we're just scratching the surface of what's really possible.
Dell, Starbucks,
Microsoft, listed on NASDAQ. NASDAQ 100 companies.
Visit Western.com, member of Starwood Preferred Guest.
We want to be challenging. We want to be risk takers. Not risk takers with the journalism, but risk taking in how we present it.
It's one of the most stressful, one of the most dangerous jobs. Police officers, however, are paid less than $40,000 a year. That's about the same as a bricklayer or an electrician in this country. Fred Katayama has this special report on our series on the most underpaid.
Officer Daniel Vautier just loves his beat.
I wouldn't trade this job for anything in the world. Put your hands behind your head, please.
He relishes chasing and handcuffing thugs and pushers.
A good run and a good vice lockup. That makes my day.
He works in one of the crime capitals of America, drug-infested Camden, New Jersey. And he patrols the roughest turf, South Camden, a magnet for vice of all kinds.
Big time crack house right there, heavy duty.
Police officers can put their lives on the line on a daily basis. An average of 165 officers get killed in the line of duty every year. Despite the high risks, the monetary rewards are low. The average officer earns less than $40,000 a year. A New York Port Authority officer can make $70,000 after 5 years, but Vautier, a 5-year veteran and a second-generation officer, makes $46,000, closer to the national average.
A lot of people don't realize the value of policing in their community, and all too often see police in the negative. And so they're not always high on the list of those people that work for government that are looked upon as deserving of additional money.
Lieutenant Lou Hannon, a 20-year veteran, earns more than $60,000 in base pay. He works overtime to make ends meet for his family of 4.
There's times when credit card companies call. I said, I'm sorry, I just needed money for, like, if the car broke down or if I needed brakes on the car.
He could be in for a rough week at work.
We got a teletype from the FBI of threats against the police to kill a cop at one of the drug corners.
A deranged woman once sliced his hand, and a prisoner shot and put him out of service for 8 months. Hannon studied accounting in college, but chose police work because the beat is more exciting than bean counting. And he feels he's making a difference in his hometown.
I go out there, help the people. I mean, you recover a bike for a kid, hey, they're all happy.
When he's off the streets, he's fighting to raise the pay. He heads one of the 2 police unions here. Camden police are asking for an increase of 3.5% to 5%. They haven't gotten a raise since their last contract expired 3 years ago. Fred Katayama, CNN Financial News, Camden, New Jersey.
Still ahead, the controversy over whether to allow women to join the Augusta National Golf Club makes the Dobbs report again tonight. My thoughts on the issue? Next. Stay with us.
Behind the headlines are real people with extraordinary stories. One journalist takes you there. Connie Chung, tonight 8 Eastern, only on CNN.
Ray Reese Volkswagen of Portland. Portland's largest volume Volkswagen dealer. Zero down delivers any Volkswagen in stock. Every 2002 Jetta in stock. Portland's largest selection. Every 2002 new Beetle in stock. Portland's lowest prices. Every 2002 Passat in stock. There can only be one leader. Ray Reese Volkswagen of Portland. 122nd and Burnside. Drivers wanted.
Tangled up in all that yard work? Break free with the revolutionary new flat hose, based on the same technology that's been used for years on fire hoses. With flat hose, simply turn on the water and watch it expand for a full unobstructed flow. Just turn off the water and it goes back to its flat shape. So watering your plants or washing the car has never been easier. Stop struggling to rewind ordinary heavy wet hoses. Call now, and as a special bonus, we'll include the flat hose storage reel. Flat hose winds up easily without twisting. You'll also receive this adjustable flow spray attachment. Flat hose, convenient storage reel, and adjustable spray gun. A $50 value, just $19.99. So which would you rather have, this or this? Ask our operators how you can receive the Flat Hose Deluxe Sprayer with special chamber for adding soap or fertilizer. Order your Flat Hose now.
To order your Flat Hose, call 800-650-5149.
How would you like the power to change from this to this? Join the thousands of men and women who are changing their bodies and lives with our best-selling videos hosted by fitness celebrity John Bastow.
Fitness Made Simple gives you the power to change. The power to change your body, the power to change your life.
Order our power package today and get the original Fitness Made Simple workout and nutrition video, plus AM/PM workouts, John's popular morning and evening exercise video for only $29.95. That's 2 videos for the price of 1. Call now.
Fitness Made Simple, bringing real results to real people.
This is CNN. This is CNN.
All right, coming up at the top of the hour, let's go to Bob Novak, Paul Begala in Washington. Bob.
Lou, it's Friday night, which means we have a couple of political insiders to look at the political scene. Democrat Tony Coelho, Republican Bob Walker, and we're going to talk about the politics of Iraq. You see, in Washington, politics just never ends.
No, it doesn't. Then we'll talk about the People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, who are not, I think, behaving very ethically toward fat Americans. They're running ads mocking fat people for allegedly eating meat. And then we will debate a story you had earlier, Lou. GE's Jack Welch and the sweet deal he got for retirement. That's actually the same thing I think you and I get from CNN, right, Lou? $15 million apartment, and we don't have to do anything to earn it, right?
I think they are going to call us back for 1 or 2 guest appearances a week if we follow that. Paul, thank you very much, Bob. We look forward to it, gentlemen. Coming up next, I'll have some thoughts on the reaction to my commentary last night on allowing women into the Augusta National Golf Club. We'll hear your thoughts on the subject as well as a number of other subjects. Stay with us.
Closed captioning for selected programs provided by Garlic, cholesterol's natural enemy.
Taking garlic to maintain normal cholesterol? You should know Garlic is a world leader in garlic potency. Take 1 tablet per day of Garlic or up to 6 of some other brands. Garlic, cholesterol's natural enemy.
Next time you're on the road and you need to fill your tank, here's something to consider. New Shell gasoline is specially formulated to help prevent deposit buildup in your engine, which helps keep it clean. And a clean engine performs better, which is why when they're looking for more from their gasoline, so many drivers choose Shell.
Where will the next great idea come from? The next trend? The next cure? More than likely, it will come from a small business. Because small business is about innovation, we created one for them. Open, the Small Business Network. New tools, services and savings for a small business economy from American Express.
Okay, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, that's our loan package. Any questions?
Applying for a second mortgage to consolidate bills doesn't have to be difficult or time-consuming.
Excuse us.
Just log on or call ditech.com and apply for a second mortgage with a no closing cost option. It's fast and easy.
Oh, lost another loan to Ditech.
Apply online or call us now at 1-800-71-FIXED.
Everybody wants to retire, but who can predict the market?
It's scary.
What if Social Security isn't enough?
Oh, you're kidding, right?
What if interest rates fall?
It's so complicated.
Retirement raises a lot of questions.
Where am I going to get that kind of money?
How much?
How much?
I am not ready for this. That's a lot of money.
Now GE Financial has a way to help. It's a simple new way to provide for your retirement called GE Retirement Answer, a variable annuity. Call your financial representative or 1-800-THINK-GE and say you want an answer. The GE Retirement Answer.
The Dobbs Report is brought to you by GE Financial. Look for GE Financial's retirement sweepstakes at money.com/retirement. Next week. week on Lou Dobbs Moneyline, Securing America's Borders. We'll tell you what's being done to improve security on one of our nation's busiest shipping lanes, the St. Lawrence Seaway. Next week on Lou Dobbs Moneyline.
Last night in my commentary here, I suggested to the Augusta National Golf Club that they end their exclusion of women for membership. And I tried to do with some humor and some perspective. But even that didn't satisfy some women in our audience who, believe it or not, in rather angry terms said I should have effectively ranted and railed against Augusta's head man, Hootie Johnson. Johnson, for some inexplicable reason, has tried to man the barricades of the Augusta male bastion against female assault. Now, those angry women viewers just might consider following the example of the woman who first asked Augusta to allow women to be members, Dr. Martha Burke. The National Council of Women's Organizations should be proud of her leadership. Dr. Burke has presented her case with reason, with principle, humanity, and humor. Mr. Johnson has, by all accounts, been an exemplary businessman and leader of his community, as well as Augusta. In this case, quite simply, he's made a mistake. But if he's as bright and honorable as his life's achievements demonstrate, he'll fix his mistake very soon. He'll have some help. The members of Augusta make up a sizable portion of the political and financial power structure of this country. Now, they may be stubborn, but they're not stupid. We've all come too far, baby. They may be insular, but they're not insulated. Most of them, in fact, are married, have daughters and granddaughters, and I can't imagine that those women haven't already exerted some significant influence on the membership. The members' collective conscience must also already have become a force for change. And surely the members' innate good judgment has already captured the simple truth about Augusta, that if Augusta is to remain one of the world's most prestigious and exclusive clubs, it must disavow exclusion of any kind. Now let's take a look at your thoughts. Now, many of you wrote in about my interview with Dr. Burke, the chair of the National Council of Women's Organizations, the organization demanding that Augusta open its doors to women. Barry Holmes in Canada wrote to say, "This is an exclusive women's organization bullying an exclusive men's organization. Must all the icons of our culture be diluted to zero value in the interest of political correctness?" What a supreme waste of time and talent when the United States has some real serious problems to deal with. Donald in Connecticut wrote to say, "I think the individuals who own private institutions have the right to set their own rules for membership, even if in the process they cut their nose off to spite their face. When outsiders step in and try to control membership, smoking, or other issues dealing with private establishments, we lose part of our democracy." Sandy in Wisconsin said, "What's the big deal? The golf issue is equal to where someone can sit on a bus." On the teaching of the September 11th attacks, Randy Blair in Michigan wrote in to say, "I take great exception to the NEA's stance that children are too stupid to discern between the race political group of individuals who commit an act and the individuals themselves. To not disclose the individuals responsible is paramount to treason. Children aren't stupid, despite the Herculean efforts of the NEA to make them that way." Michael Finley in Minnesota wrote to say the NEA was deliberately misrepresented. All the NEA website was saying is that we should not blame American Muslims for September 11th. Those are some of your thoughts. We thank you for sharing them. Email us at moneyline@cnn.com. As always, please include your name and address. Those your words. Let's go to their words.
Today, Congress gathers near that battlefield to honor the character shown and the courage shown in New York these last 360 days, and to remember every innocent life taken in the attacks of September 11th.
I think this is a very important place to be, especially right now. We want to send as clear a message as we can about the solidarity we have with the people of New York, about our determination to recover from this awful tragedy.
To think that Congress, only for the second time in the more than 220-year history of this country, has held a special session outside of the Capitol and chose New York, I think sends a very important message.
My father was assassinated in Quetta by the Taliban and terrorists. Did that stop me from fighting against them? I was almost killed in Oregon. Did that stop me from fighting? I will not stop. I'll continue.
It's a dangerous place, and the important thing to remember is that that is a very tough mission. Anytime you have a personal security detail, it's an extremely difficult thing to do, and our Special Forces troops did it very well.
And that is Moneyline for this Friday evening. Thanks for being with us. Join us next week Our guests will include journalist Jana Davis. We'll be talking about her research that shows Iraq was involved in the 1995 bombing of the Alfred Murray Federal Building in Oklahoma City. That's next week. We hope you'll be with us. Thanks for being with us tonight. For all of us here, have a very pleasant weekend. Good night from New York City.
Crossfire. On the left, James Carville and Paul Begala. On the right, Robert Novak and Tucker Carlson. In the Crossfire tonight. Honoring New York, but still talking Iraq.
I'd rather do it right than do it quickly.
And plenty of other problems are waiting back in Washington. He got $16 million last year and a whole lot more. She's got the perfect recipe for aggravating Congress. How's your boss behaving? And it's a sign of the times. We'll ask the president of the group behind it, where's the beef? Ahead on Crossfire. From the George Washington University, Paul Begala and Robert Novak.
Welcome to Crossfire tonight. Wretched excess in the executive suite. How can the rest of us get sweetheart deals like GE's Jack Welch? We'll also look at the hazards of overindulgence. Animal rights groups apparently will make fun of you on billboards. But first, get ready to indulge in the best political briefing in television, our Crossfire Political Alert. The United States Congress today returned home. No, not to the majestic Capitol that's housed our Congress since Washington, D.C. was built, but to its original home, New York City. It was a largely symbolic session held in historic Federal Hall on the site where George Washington was inaugurated, our first president, only 4 blocks from Ground Zero. Now, after they finished praising the heroism of the Union men and women in fire and police departments in New York, congressional Republicans are expected to return here to Washington, where they will try to use the new Homeland Security law to screw public employees' unions. Symbolism is one thing, right-wing politics is quite another.
You know, Paul, even when it comes to fighting terrorism, the unions demand their pound of flesh, and I guess Democrats like you will do whatever the unions tell you to do. Since he entered the White House, George W. Bush has become accustomed to arm-twisting members of Congress with considerable success. Today, he twisted some international arms on the phone with French President Jacques Chirac, Chinese President Jiang Zemin, and Russian President Vladimir Putin. All oppose military intervention in Iraq. Any one of them can veto a UN Security Council resolution authorizing a military effort to get rid of Saddam Hussein. And tomorrow, President Bush meets with one leader who supports him, British Prime Minister Tony Blair. It's good news that President Bush is seeking broad international support.
It is, but I wish he would actually seek broad American support. He hasn't even persuaded his own party. He needs to come to us and make the case. Well, the Center Daily Times of Pennsylvania has dumped right-wing blowhard columnist Ann Coulter, calling her, quote, either a hater or a hypocrite, unquote. Of course, that's wrong. Coulter is both. Here's proof. Coulter's a hater. Coulter recently endorsed terrorism, saying, quote, my only regret with Timothy McVeigh is he did not go to the New York Times building, unquote. Coulter is also a hypocrite. The Washington Post's reliable source column today reports that Ms. Coulter apparently fibs about her age. While Ann Thrax, as the website MediaWhoresOnline.com calls her, she claims her age is 38. The Post notes, though, that her birth certificate, her voting records, and her Connecticut driver's license all indicate her age to be 40. When Coulter sold her book about lies the media tells, I didn't know it was autobiographical.
You know, Paul, where I came from in Illinois, it was considered ungentlemanly to challenge a woman when she told you how old she was. I'm really ashamed of you and surprised at you on that. In the primary elections this coming Tuesday, the nastiest race is the New Hampshire Republican Senate contest. Incumbent Senator Bob Smith ran briefly for president in 2000, and he briefly left the Republican Party when he found no party support for him. That's where he's being challenged by Congressman John E. Sununu, not the guy who used to be on Crossfire, but his son. The Democrats have a dog in this fight. They want Big Bob Smith to win because they think they can lick him in November. The bad news for Democrats, Sununu has got a double-digit lead.
He's also, if he wins, going to have to face popular Governor Jeanne Shaheen. Jeanne Shaheen is going to beat either one of those guys like a bad piece of meat. Go, Governor Shaheen. In the Now They Tell Us department, a former aide to Palestinian leader Yasser Arafat has publicly attacked Arafat for rejecting the peace deal brokered by then-President Bill Clinton. Former Palestinian cabinet member Nabil Amr has written a public letter asking, quote, "Didn't we throw mud in the face of Bill Clinton, who dared to propose a state with some adjustments? Were we being honest about what we did? Were we right in what we did? No, we were not." After 2 years of violence, he continued, "We are now calling for what we rejected." In time, I expect to see apologies like this one from everyone who threw mud in Bill Clinton's face, starting with Ken Starr and finishing, say, with my pal Bob Novak.
My friend, you may have a very long wait for that. The debate season started early in New Jersey last night. Tough, battle-hardened Democratic Senator Robert Torricelli versus an unknown Republican businessman named Douglas Forrester. This once seemed a cinch win for Torricelli until he was censured by the Senate Ethics Committee. Two problems for the senator emerged last night. First, normally liberal journalists just couldn't resist working him over. Second, much as Torricelli tried to talk about Social Security and prescription drugs, he couldn't get the focus off his ethics. Unless he can change the subject in this campaign, the torch is toast.
The voters in New Jersey are going to have to decide whether they're more concerned about their own problems, which Bob Torricelli can help them on, Social Security and prescription drugs, or Torricelli's mistakes. I think they should vote in their own interests and keep Torricelli.
Despite today's show of solidarity, of solidarity in New York, Congress is anything but solidly behind the idea of a U.S. attack on Iraq. Democratic congressional leaders have toned down their rhetoric after getting secret briefings from the president, vice president, defense secretary, and CIA director. But how long will it take for the political war over Iraq to heat up again? First in the crossfire tonight, former Democratic Congressman from California and former Gore campaign chairman Tony Coelho, and former Republican Congressman from Pennsylvania, Bob Walker. Tony, how are you?
Gentlemen, both, thank you very much. This is a whole lot of intellectual wattage here and political talent, so I'm going to get right to it. Mr. Walker, there's a sort of a theory going around in Washington that perhaps, just perhaps, the Republicans are speeding up this debate about going to war in Iraq because they believe it will benefit them politically. I have to say, when I first heard it, I was very skeptical. I always want to believe the best, particularly about this president who's from my state of Texas. Right. But look at the evidence. On January 18th of this year, to be exact, Karl Rove, my friend from Texas, gave a speech where he said we're going to take the issue of war to the voters. On June 4th, a memo that Karl had written got leaked to the press. It was a PowerPoint presentation that he left in a park, and somebody picked it up and put it in the press. The first thing it said is we're going to focus the election on the war. And now, in today's newspaper, we pick it up, and here's Mitch Bainwall, the executive director of the National Republican Senate Committee, and here's what the Republicans' campaign director says. It is perfectly fair game to talk about national security records. We'll see these issues gain salience as we get closer to the election. Now, why does a political hack know that the war is going to become more important as we get closer to the election?
Well, I don't think that it's a question of the election. It's a question of the danger of Saddam Hussein. The fact is that this is a guy who is a danger to the world. He's a danger to us. And Democrats have rightly said that the president, before he goes to war, ought to take this issue before the Congress. I agree with that. Former President Bush did it. It was a courageous thing to do. I think that it's right for this president to do it. But that vote actually should take place prior to the election, because Congress will probably go home. I don't think there will be a lame duck session. Congress will probably go home. The president needs the authority to act. And so I hope that that there is a vote that takes place. And I would hope that it's not an issue because everybody in the Congress lines up behind the President of the United States and says that it is time to do what we said we were going to do in 1998 in the Iraq Liberation Act, and that is get rid of Saddam Hussein.
Tony Coelho, I never thought of you as a conspiracy theorist guy, but
you thought a lot of other things.
Let's not get into that. But You know, there is just a theory going around here that the president was suffering because of Enron and corporate corruption, economy not so hot. And so he changed the subject, got on this debate on Iraq. The debate on Iraq started because people who are very non-political, like General Scowcroft and others, Larry Eagleburger, said this was not a good idea, and the president had to defend his position. Won't you agree that this is something that just happened naturally, wasn't planned by Karl Rove?
I'm not sure I can. I think that, Bob, you're protesting too much. You know, the president only a few weeks ago said, this is a hype by the media. And all of a sudden now, we have a president and the vice president say, this is the most important thing in the world today. We've got to deal with it. This is a 10-year-old fight. I mean, he can't solve his father's wars. I mean, he has to convince us.
Because he was being
He has to convince us that something has happened in the last few months that is different than what it was 10 years ago, or is going to be different than what it, let me finish, Bob, different than what it is going to be a couple of months from now. Why is all of a sudden this Iraqi situation so much more important than the war on terrorism and everything else? Something is going on.
Bill Clinton called it extremely important in 1998, and Congress backed him with the Iraq Liberation Act. What's changed since then? I don't know. Has Iraq been liberated? I don't think it has
Bob,
been.
The issue is, if it hasn't changed since then, why are we so exercised to do something today? That is the issue.
Because the situation,
it's not whether or not Saddam Hussein should go out.
Go ahead, Mr. Walker. The situation has become increasingly worse, and we do have intelligence information that indicates that Saddam Hussein is beginning to gain capabilities that could cause him to do something very, very nasty in the world. I think the President of the United States needs to act. It's too bad in some past wars going well back into the century that people did not act before the time when nasty people did very bad things in the world.
Last night we were privileged to have on this set Duncan Hunter, one of the most intelligent, a very conservative member of the House of Representatives, next in line to be the chairman of the House Armed Services Committee. He has access to intelligence data that you men used to in the Congress, that I used to in the White House, don't anymore. He said it'll be 3 to 5 years before Saddam Hussein has a nuke, and that seemed to me to be particularly pessimistic. Why, if it's 3 to 5 years away, do we have to vote before the election? Excuse me if I'm a little skeptical of the timing.
Saddam Hussein admitted himself just a few months ago that he had more than 5,000 units of biochemicals that he could use. So we know that he possesses, by his own admission, things of mass destruction. And so he doesn't have to have nukes in order to cause severe problems in the world. And I think we're worried that he may just go ahead and do it.
Tony Quell, let me quote somebody who is not very partisan. He's a Republican, Porter Goss, of Florida, chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, great friend of Janet Reno, great friend of Senator Bob Graham, not a very partisan Republican at all. And on Novak Hunt...
He's partisan, but he's a good guy.
On Novak Hunt and Shields, we taped him today to be shown at 5:30 tomorrow night. Mark Shields and I.
What was that?
5:30. You can see the whole show tomorrow. But let's just listen to one thing he said.
Knowing Saddam's track record, what kind of a person he is, the efforts to harm Americans, and the other capabilities he has is enough to grab our attention and say we've got to do something about this.
You disagree with that?
No. I don't think the issue is Saddam Hussein. I don't think the issue is bringing this man down. The issue is what has happened in the last few months that all of a sudden it has to be done now. Right now. And as Walker says, has to be done before the election. No. I don't think
You mean the vote before the election?
The vote. I don't think that anything has really changed dramatically in the last few months. This man needs to be brought down. That is not an issue. But why all of a sudden is it so critical to do it now? And that is something the White House has to convince the American people and hasn't yet.
On that thought, and Bob Walker, hold your fire for just 1 minute. We're going to take a quick break. Tony Quayle and Bob Walker in a minute. We're going to ask our guests about some of the other landmines confronting our Congress, including our president's handling or mishandling of the economy and his attempt to pack the court with right-wing ideologues. Later, when $16 million a year isn't quite enough. And our quote of the day comes from someone who's just lost his job and wants some extra special help from the government. Stay with us.
Another network problem.
Someone left the firewall door open again.
Wasn't me.
Access? I'm access, not security.
I thought security, everyone's probably
Legacy. Legacy.
You're not the boss of me.
Okay, good.
Hold on. Who are you guys?
We're vendors.
That's good.
Want a more secure network? At Genuity, we manage and monitor every inch of your network. Genuity.
Before you go back to school, go to America Online.
It's the ultimate school supply.
Our whole family uses AOL.
You can get help with your homework.
America Online has everything your family needs to start school and throughout the year. Call 1-800-4ONLINE or pick up a free AOL startup disc at these stores.
Consider this. New Shell gasoline is specially formulated to help prevent deposits in your engine. And a clean engine performs better. Is it any wonder, then, why so many drivers choose Shell?
Behind the headlines are real people with extraordinary stories. One journalist takes you there. Connie Chung, tonight 8 Eastern, only on CNN.
Oregon's economy is struggling. Ted Kulongowski's plan? Raise taxes. Taxing Ted supports a $559 million increase in income taxes to fund runaway government spending. He's proposed doubling vehicle registration fees, and he favors imposing new taxes on Oregon families. Kulongowski's plan means more Oregonians looking for work. He wants to be our governor. Oregon's economy can't afford more tax and spend politics.
Because of huge success, we've extended our Labor Day sale one more week.
This is our biggest sale of the year, and it ends this weekend.
It's your last chance for mattress sets at just $89 each piece.
This is any size, twin, full, queen, or king.
And don't forget, no interest for 1 full year.
Mattress World's hard-to-find locations will save you money.
It's not too late to sleep like a baby. Mattress World.
If we can't beat any price on any comparable mattress, then the mattress is free.
This is CNN.
Welcome back to Crossfire. Congress got about a month to finish a ton of work. Iraq, of course, and the Department of Homeland Security, plus judicial vacancies and all 13 spending bills to keep our government in business. And, of course, just around the corner is the November election with control of the Congress at stake. In the Crossfire tonight, former Pennsylvania Congressman Bob Walker and Democratic strategist, former California Congressman Tony Coelho.
Tony Coelho, the Senate Judiciary Committee killed the nomination of Texas Supreme Court Justice Priscilla Owen, supremely qualified because the abortion industry and the trial lawyers were opposed to her. And I just want to read something, we'll put it on the screen, that Senator Mitch McConnell, a Republican on the Judiciary Committee, said, it's important to remember in the Senate, what goes around comes around. Your party's buying a heap of trouble for the future when the tables are going to be turned, aren't they?
Don't forget, Bob, other nominees were reported out and will get on the court. This is no different than what the Republicans did to Bill Clinton for 8 years. They didn't let all his nominees get to the court. The process is you nominate, you have the committee here, and then some pass and some don't. And that's the way the cookie crumbles.
No, it isn't, Mr. Quell, because almost all of his early nominees got through in his first 2 years. That's when a new president puts it in. And I want you to, there is a new standard put out by your friend, Senator Chuck Schumer of New York, who is a member of the Judiciary Committee. Let's listen to what he says. Listen, this is an amazing statement.
The White House has to understand that they cannot pack the courts with only conservative nominees and expect this committee to be a rubber stamp. Certainly the Constitution calls for advise and consent.
Is the most blatant expression I have ever heard of an ideological litmus test for judicial nominees. You can't approve of that.
I do.
Wow.
Well.
And let me tell you what my concern is that what you folks are trying to do is this man barely won the election. I can say he didn't, but I won't get there. And he barely won the election. And here he is trying to put people on the court or completely to the right. You know what he ought to do? He ought to put people on the court who are qualified.
Who are pro-abortion.
No, who don't have to be pro-abortion. Who aren't obnoxious that the White House counsel even says goes beyond what the state legislature. That is what the White House counsel said.
It is not. He has said over and over again.
It is what the White House counsel said.
Go ahead. What did he say? What were his exact words?
The White House. I don't know his exact words.
Let
him talk.
The White House were that one of her opinions was.
Can I make my point?
Can I make my point?
The White House counsel has said that this is an extremely well-qualified candidate. The American Bar Association said it's an extremely well-qualified candidate. Even the Washington Post, the liberal Washington Post, said this is an extremely well-qualified candidate. The problem not is the question.
What did he say when he was in Texas? What did he say?
Al Gonzalez is the White House counsel, a very able guy. He served on the Texas Supreme Court with Justice Priscilla Owen, and 11 different times he attacked her judicial philosophy as being far too activist, which is something conservatives traditionally don't like. And the exact quote in the case at hand was, "This is an unconscionable act of judicial activism." This is something conservatives are supposed to oppose, and this is why the Democrats on the committee voted against her.
The fact is that what the Democrats want is activist liberals on the court. And so activism shouldn't be their standard. You know, the fact is what they want is activist liberals, and the problem is that the president is
he wants activist conservatives. At least we're honest about it.
Well, who's president?
Well, and he's president.
Who won the election?
And if he sends well-qualified people to the Hill who have his philosophy, they should be approved because they're well qualified. The philosophy should not be the litmus test. If it is, we're in deep trouble in this country.
With respect, where were you when I worked for Bill Clinton? And 10 justices he nominated who were ranked well qualified.
That was at the tail end of his administration.
Excuse me, Mr. Novak, never got a vote. Justice Owen got a vote. The president was too weak politically to carry her through. And you know, a weak president can't deliver his nominees. That's the lesson here, right?
It's not a weak president because the fact is what you had is a partisanly stacked committee that wouldn't even allow the nomination to come to the floor. If Justice Owens had come to the floor, there would have been a vote and it would have been in favor of her. So you use a partisanly stacked committee in order to deny the president the vote that he deserves in the United States Senate.
I just want you to look me in the eye, Mr. Quello, and say that you're ready for a time down the road when there is a Republican-controlled Senate and a Democratic president. The way we work in this country, it'll probably happen, and you're willing to say we are going to put an ideological litmus test. You said you like that then? You'll have to like it in the future, right?
It's already been done, Bob. Let's not pretend. Let's not play games. You guys have done it. You enjoyed it when you could. Yes, you did. Yes, you did. And now it's coming back to roost on you guys, and you don't like it. Too bad.
So this is retribution even against well-qualified.
No, it's not.
That's what you just said.
We just put through other appointees to the court. We just put other appointees to the court.
Those are the last words. Thank you, Tony Quello. Thank you, Bob Walker. We appreciate it.
Great job.
Congress may have more on its plate than it can handle, but one particular committee seems to be cooking up a little something special for Martha Stewart. That's coming up, along with a new sign of madness from some animal rights crazies. But next, our quote of the day, which contains a very unusual job request.
Consider this. New Shell gasoline is specially formulated to help prevent deposits in your engine. And a clean engine performs better. Is it any wonder, then, why so many drivers choose Shell?
They're the ones who say, you're always right. They say they're not happy until you are. Because small business is about a higher level of customer service, we created a higher level for them. Open, the Small Business Network. New tools, services, and savings for a small business economy. From American Express.
IBM NetVista. Real people, not actors.
Excuse me.
Come on, I want to show you some computers.
This is the Net Vista.
Beautiful design. This monitor is gorgeous.
So what is this about? I have too many people looking at me. I could see that on my desk. Have you ever lost any data?
Hasn't everybody lost data at some point?
All these computers can use Rapid Restore, which is a one-touch button that lets you go back to the last time the computer saved.
I lost my computer to virus. That's not a very good thing.
What about security?
In this day and age, security is just, it's a big issue.
Well, IBM offers a range of security options if you're worried about hackers online.
That would be fantastic.
I just can't afford it, probably.
Actually, NetVista Desktop start at just $6.99. This one can use Rapid Restore PC and has an Intel Pentium 4 processor, providing advanced technology for business. Buy this Intel Pentium 4 processor-powered desktop now, and you can get a free monitor. That's a $100 value.
And would you know how to buy an IBM?
Probably go online.
Can I have one?
Tonight on CNN Primetime at 8, Connie brings you a 9/11 survival story, how a pair of eyeglasses saved the life of a former chef at the World Trade Center. Then he says he can connect with people who crossed over. TV psychic John Edward takes your calls on Larry King Live at 9. And at 10, a unique perspective, 9/11 through the eyes of children, an emotional look at how some kids are coping on Newsnight. Connie Chung, Larry King, Aaron Brown, beginning at 8 Eastern. It's all part of CNN Primetime tonight.
Welcome back. Louisiana State University has given bioweapons expert Dr. Stephen Hatfill the 1-2-3 treatment. LSU hired him July 1st, suspended him August 2nd, and fired him September 3rd. Dr. Hatfill denies that he is the killer in the anthrax cases, has never been charged with any crime, has not even been designated as a suspect in the anthrax investigation, but that didn't stop Attorney General John Ashcroft from publicly labeling Dr. Hatfill, quote, a person of interest in last year's anthrax attacks. Now, LSU won't say why Dr. Hatfill was canned, although it got a government email ordering Hatfill not to be assigned to any Justice Department-funded program. Now, Hatfill's attorney has written to John Ashcroft, and in our quote of the day says, quote, Dr. Hatfill has been rendered not only unemployed, but as a practical matter, unemployable by your department's inappropriate actions. Please use your good offices to promptly secure appropriate employment for Dr. Hatfill.
Well, this
Amen.
is one of the rare times I agree with you 100%. This is like Joseph K. and Kafka's the trial. You don't know what he's accused of, you don't know what he's charged with, but he is out of work.
Amen. I agree completely.
Verdicts came in today in the trial of two boys accused of murdering their father. Connie Chung has details next in a CNN News Alert. Later, do CEOs really deserve all those lavish fringe benefits? If so, is criticism just neo-Marxist class warfare? And then we'll ask the president of an animal rights group if in your face, or in this case, in your stomach ad campaigns accomplish anything at all.
If you listen, really listen, you can hear life all around you. Wonderful sounds of little things coming awake to greet the morn. Oh, joyous nature, harmonious in its depth. Pella, viewed to be the best.
Your local Pella window and door store has quality replacement windows on sale now. Stop in today.
Next time you're on the road and you need to fill your tank, here's something to consider. New Shell gasoline is specially formulated to help prevent deposit buildup in your engine, which helps keep it clean. And a clean engine performs better, which is why when they're looking for more from their gasoline, so many drivers choose Shell.
America remembers September 11th.
It'll be etched forever. This day changed all of us.
Introducing CNN's definitive documentary of the day that changed our lives. America Remembers, bringing you the sounds and unforgettable images from ground zero to the rise of America's new spirit and the war in Afghanistan. with never-before-seen footage told through the personal recollections from the people of CNN.
Shakes the core of who we are as people.
Now you can own America Remembers on VHS or DVD. Call for this exclusive package, which includes the limited re-release issue from the archives of Time magazine. A portion of the proceeds will be donated to the Families of Freedom Scholarship Fund to provide education assistance to victims' families. It was a day the world will never forget, and America should always remember.
Join Carville, Begala, Carlson, and Novak in the Crossfire. For free tickets to the live Washington audience, call 202-994-8CNN or email us at cnn@gwu.edu. Now you can step into the Crossfire.
Hello, I'm Connie Chung at the CNN Broadcast Center in New York. Crossfire is back in 90 seconds, but first, these stories top our news alert. 2 young Florida brothers are facing up to a lifetime in prison for beating their father to death with a baseball bat, then setting his house on fire. Several hours ago, a jury found 14-year-old Derek King and 13-year-old Alex King guilty of second-degree murder and arson. About an hour after that verdict was read, family friend Ricky Chavez found out he was acquitted of the same crime. Chavez was tried last week. This is a picture of the prosecutor. Chavez was tried last week, but the verdict sealed under the boys' trial until the boys' trial was concluded. I'll have much more on this case at the top of the hour, including an interview with the grandfather of the boys. Afghan authorities say they're holding 17 men for questioning in yesterday's attempt to assassinate President Hamid Karzai. The detainees include the security commander who recruited the suspected gunman into a detail at the Kandahar governor's palace, the scene of the shooting. The gunman was shot dead. Karzai escaped unharmed. Tropical storm Faye is stalled over the Gulf Coast about 100 miles south of Galveston, Texas, as it threatens to become a minimal hurricane. The storm has been spinning 60-mile-an-hour winds and gathering strengths. And those are our top stories at this hour, and I'll be back in 30 minutes. Now back to Paul and Bob in Washington.
Connie, what more are we going to learn tonight about these 2 boys who killed their father, or who are convicted of killing their father?
Well, one of the most fascinating things is that I was just talking to the attorney for the older boy, and I was told that all the lawyers in the case and the judge knew what the sentence was in the previous trial. In other words, within their chambers, they were allowed to see that the family friend, this fellow named Rick Chavez, was found not guilty. Apparently the judge decided that he would go ahead with the second trial, knowing that in the first trial, the man was found not guilty. We had no idea. The public had no idea. Everyone else had no idea.
Well, thanks for getting the facts for us, Connie Chung. Ladies and gentlemen, America's News Anchor. Thanks, Connie. Coming up, an unusual question from an animal rights group. How many airline seats do you want to take up? But next, the poster children for wayward CEOs. Is there a life lesson here for the rest of us?
There's a change in the air, and it's moving us into the future. It's what happens when you streamline routes and improve on-time performance. Some call it innovation. We call it Norfolk Southern.
They're the ones who say, "You're always right." They say they're not happy until you are. Because small business is about a higher level of customer service, we created a higher level for them. Open, the Small Business Network. New tools, services, and savings for a small business economy. From American Express.
America Online keeps us all connected. It keeps me close to the people I love I'm closer to my grandparents because of AOL.
You've got mail.
AOL's got something for everybody.
AOL has parental controls, and that's important to me and my family.
America Online invented state-of-the-art parental controls because we know parents want to protect their children, and we continually improve parental controls to make them even easier to use.
AOL has stuff you won't find anywhere else.
America Online, so easy to use, no wonder it's #1.
Consider this. New Shell gasoline is specially formulated to help prevent deposits in your engine. And a clean engine performs better. Is it any wonder, then, why so many drivers choose Shell?
In 102 minutes, the world changed. Wednesday, CNN goes across America and around the globe to reveal how the events of September 11th really happened. CNN's team brings you in-depth reports with new information and insight as details of this story continue to unfold. Reports from Ground Zero, the Pentagon, and Afghanistan. A riveting and unforgettable day of coverage as America remembers. All day, CNN Wednesday.
Welcome back to Crossfire. We're coming to you from the George Washington University in Foggy Bottom, D.C. Martha Stewart and Jack Welch have been lionized and demonized over the years. Right now, they're both in a down cycle. A House committee is dropping hints it may subpoena Martha or even refer criminal charges against her to authorities. Why? Because it's the way for an ambitious congressman to get on television. Jack Welch is caught up in a messy divorce suit. Court papers filed by his ex-wife says he gets a nice array of fringe benefits from GE, like a free Manhattan apartment and courtside seats for the New York Knicks. Maybe he deserves all the benefits, no matter what the class warriors say. In the Crossfire, we have Common Cause Vice President Ben Bisel, and in New York is Forbes magazine managing editor Dennis Neal.
Hi, Bob. Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
And Mr. Neal, let me start with you. Good of you to take time on a Friday evening. I want to read you a quote from Jack Welch's autobiography, Straight from the Gut, where he tells us, he's nice enough to tell us about his own integrity. He writes, a freshman at Fairfield University Business School Forum recently asked me, how can you be a good Catholic and a businessman at the same time? I answered emphatically, I am. The simple answer is, by maintaining integrity, establishing it and never wavering from it, supported everything I did through good and bad times. People may not have agreed with me on every issue, but they always knew they were getting it straight and honest. So now we know 3 wives, secret payments, and untrammeled greed. Is that corporate America's idea of integrity, Mr. Neal?
I really think you're asking the wrong question. You're asking the wrong question. I don't care what Jack Welch does in his personal life. I care what kind of wealth he creates for his shareholders and his employees. I'm sorry?
Did you say that about Bill Clinton, Mr. Neal?
What does Bill Clinton have to do with Jack Welch? I'm not quite sure.
Now, what will we tell the children? The same
if I may get a word in edgewise, if I may actually try to get a point in, let me just say Jack Welch earned every penny of what they paid him. When he took over GE, GE was not one of the 100 most valuable companies in the world. When he left GE, it was #1 in the world. Jack Welch helped do that, and he's worth every dollar they're paying him.
So why not disclose it? They paid him $900 million to begin with, Mr. Neal. Not a bad paycheck.
That's what he earned over a lifetime. That's what he amassed over a lifetime. And
so
sure,
why
let
not
him
disclose the Manhattan apartment, the Knicks seats, the courtside seats of the U.S. Open, satellite TV in all his homes, laundry, toiletry, newspapers?
I'll tell you. Look, they didn't disclose it because it's not even a rounding error on GE's balance sheet. GE's sales are $125 billion a year. This company earns almost $15 billion a year. They spend more money on toilet paper than they spend on compensating Jack Welch.
They're going to hide millions and millions of dollars from retired teachers, from firemen, from police officers, that they're not entitled to know what it is before they invest. That's a fraud.
Let's let Mr. Welch testify on his own behalf with the statement he made today. And just let me read you one paragraph of it. The essence of this story is that GE put a succession plan in place that included a contract with me, described the succession plan in the media, disclosed the contract as required, and the plan has worked to the benefit of all constituencies. A one-sided filing by one party in a contested divorce does not change these facts, end quote. Isn't this just a matter of greed and class struggle we're talking
that's the
about?
problem. It says as required.
Envy.
He did not. No, he did not have to file with the SEC. So what the company did is it filed this document that said he's entitled to the same benefits he got when he was working there. Did that mean free gym? Did that mean lunch in the cafeteria? No, it meant millions and millions and millions of dollars of benefit. If you were a shareholder of GE, you would want to know that.
No, if I was a shareholder of GE, I would, which I'm not, I would send a thank you note to Mr. Wells for upping my value of the stock for all those years.
Bingo. General Electric stock rose 1,000%.
And telling him to take an extra $30 million, just go ahead and take it.
Go ahead, Mr. Neal.
General Electric stock rose 1,000%. That's a huge rise. That is twice the rise in the broad index of the 500 biggest companies in America. Jack Welch did that. Furthermore, by paying him the millions of dollars that you're paying him, you make sure he doesn't go consult to some of GE's biggest competitors. If you're a shareholder of GE, you'd much rather that Jack Welch is still on your side, even if it's costing you $5 million a year. Another thing, Citicorp's retired CEO. He gets paid $2 million a year. Fleet Financial's CEO, when he retires at year end, he'll get paid almost $6 million a year. This is standard in corporate America. It's just that right now we are at a time when we're enjoying beating up on CEOs, and politicians and activists are enjoying grandstanding.
Beating up on CEOs, these men make millions and millions of dollars. Please, don't tell me about beating up on people. That's ridiculous.
Well, I feel very bad for them.
I'm going to shed a tear too, Paul.
Cult of one, Mr. Neal. But doesn't the board of directors have some responsibility to disclose this to the share owners? It's the share owners' money, not the board's. And in fact, Dave Crystal, who's one of the experts on corporate compensation, had this to say in the New York Times today. Mr. Crystal says, quote, "This is an indictment of GE's board of directors. This is the most appalling use of corporate assets. No one had any idea of the magnitude of what the company had been giving
A couple of thoughts. Okay, Bud Crystal has made his career criticizing executive compensation. He's a dial-a-quote. That's what we do. Okay. We call him and we need a good soundbite criticizing compensation. They didn't disclose because it's simply not material. In a $125 billion a year company, if they're paying him $5 million, if they're paying him $10 million, so what?
I want to move on to Martha Stewart. She is being dragged before this committee. She got rid of some stock. It is not a big deal. There's a lot of other things they could be investigating. Why are they investigating her? It was explained today in the Wall Street Journal by Holman Jenkins, one of the best business columnists in America. Let me just read from his column. Mr. Greenwood's subcommittee, this is James Greenwood, liberal Republican of Pennsylvania, is pursuing Ms. Stewart solely because she's a celebrity, just like Mr. Greenwood wants to be. But having had his jollies and appeared on a dozen talking head shows, the moment has come to notice that the evidence is circumstantial and it all points to no crime being committed by Ms. Stewart. Aren't you sophisticated enough to know when you got a television-grabbing, ambitious congressman at work?
Look, on the positive side for Martha Stewart, she is taking the heat for all those executives like Ken Lay and all the rest of them who we can't get to. So that's the positive side. On the other hand, she is a whiner. She's a complete whiner. She lived by fame every day. She benefits by fame. And now she gets caught. You have to believe 10 incredible facts to believe that she isn't guilty of at least obstruction of justice, if not insider trading.
Mr. Neal, what do you think about Martha Stewart?
Okay, a couple things. The very next thing that will happen is, yes, the Congressional Committee will indeed subpoena Martha Stewart. That's without a doubt that's going to happen, right? And then all of us in the media are just going to go wild with this and cover every moment of it because we love this. But the fact is, this is a Tempest and a Cuisinart. This is nothing. It's an embarrassment that they're still investigating this. And they're never going to prove a case against her either.
Shouldn't this Republican congressman who's going after the one Democratic business person in trouble also subpoena Jack Welch?
The one Jack Welch do?
Well, we should know. Let's find out.
That's ridiculous.
Let's find out.
Why don't we subpoena Paul Begala for crying out loud?
Find out who's paying taxes on all this.
All I know is I'm going right out to Target and buying my Martha Stewart before it's gone.
You surely don't agree that they should subpoena Jack Welch.
No, Jack Welch's marital problems are not my problem.
Thank you.
Marital problem. I wonder if he's paying taxes on this. Dennis Neal, Forbes Magazine. Thank you very much from New York.
Thanks.
Ben Bicel, thank you very much for joining us here in Washington. Coming up in our Fireback segment, one of our viewers explains to Bob Novak why so many college professors are Democrats. But next, looking out for the welfare of animals and humans too. Fasten your seatbelts if you can. Stay with us.
Consider this. New Shell gasoline is specially formulated to help prevent deposits in your engine. And a clean engine performs better. Is it any wonder then why so many drivers choose Shell?
Yeah, the network's switching over now.
Network, what's going on? Let's take a look, shall we?
The phone lines are down.
Voice, you take over. Switching to data. 3, 2.
Got it. Want to keep your business up and running? Genuity's Black Rocket combines voice and data on a single secure network. Genuity.
Most people, when told about the idea of Staples, thought it was kind of crazy. 15 years later, Staples has over 1,400 stores around the world.
When I joined Intel, I really wanted to join a company that was at the edge of high technology. We're making things that are more complex than human beings have ever made in the past.
I would hope that people would think about Cisco in terms of changing the way the world works, lives, plays, and learns. And to be a part of that is tremendously exciting.
One of the hallmarks of an entrepreneur is you turn adversity into opportunity.
Great companies learn how to manage during growth, but they also learn to manage during the tough times.
And if you love what you do, I think it gives you the ability to see what might be in the future.
You always have to dream the dream.
And that's the vision part. I like to think we're at the center of the world's economy for the decades to come.
Staples.
Intel.
Cisco. Listed on NASDAQ. NASDAQ 100 companies.
An incredible story of survival on 9/11. Hear how a former chef at the World Trade Center escaped disaster. Why does he believe a pair of eyeglasses saved his life? Connie shares Michael LaMonaco's amazing tale. CNN Tonight, 8 Eastern.
Welcome back to Crossfire. A couple of months ago, a brother and sister from New Mexico had to take a bus home because Southwest Airlines insisted they were so fat they had to pay for extra seats. Now, PETA, the People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, is trying to make hay out of this wide-bodied predicament. PETA billboards feature a supersized stomach with the slogan, "Don't pay for 2 seats, go vegetarian." Is this the way to answer our national epidemic of obesity? Well, joining us to discuss that matter from Virginia Beach, Virginia, is PETA President Ingrid Newkirk. Ms. Newkirk, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. The irony is, Ms. Newkirk, is that Southwest Airlines doesn't feed you anything, meat or vegetables. That's why they're so profitable. But there is no evidence whatever that people eat meat are fatter or leaner than people who eat vegetables. It doesn't make any difference. This is just an attention grabber, isn't it?
No, you know better than that. It's certainly an attention grabber, but we have an obesity epidemic. When we talk about wide bodies these days, we aren't talking about jumbo jets. We're talking about the passengers on them. And we thought we would seize this opportunity and say, look, 80% of Americans are overweight if they're over the age of 25. Children are fat. You can slim down if you go veg. And so we put a website, goveg.com, for tasty recipes that will actually help you lose, on average, 20 pounds.
What about those 500-pound sumo wrestlers in Japan who subsist on a vegetable diet?
Oh, no, they don't. They eat this huge soup. I know exactly what sumo wrestlers eat, and it's this thing called chunko, and it's full of chicken and fish, and of course they drink a lot of beer.
Well, actually, this is Paul Begala, Ms. Newkirk. Also, that chunko nabe stew also includes lots of cabbage and lots of rice and onions and mushrooms and tofu, the official food, I think, of PETA. But let me ask you a more direct question. Tell me why a group that weeps for lab rats is mocking and taunting Americans who happen to be obese.
Oh, nobody's mocking or taunting. I think most people don't want to carry around that excess baggage. It's uncomfortable, it's unwieldy, they don't feel good. And it's not as if we suddenly have this genetic predisposition to be fat. It's what we're eating. We're putting away the chicken McNuggets and the turkey and the fish and hoping that does some good for us, when in fact it doesn't. GoVeg.com, free vegetarian starter kit. You will lose weight. If you keep putting even little bits of chicken away, you're getting far too much fat, because that fat runs all the way through the bird.
I wonder if you've done anything to call attention to the fat polar bears who, they subsist on a diet of meat up there, and they're all fat. Are you going to move polar bears into veggie too? Or isn't it simply natural for people to eat meat just the way it's for some animals to eat meat?
They don't say, anthropologists say that we started out, picking berries and getting vegetables and fruits and things like that. And then the first time we hit a brontosaurus over the head, I think we fell in love with the taste of meat, and it sent us to the emergency room ever since. The more we've eaten, the sicker we've become as a nation.
Ms. Newkirk, this is the first time I've been on with you, and I'm a 71-year-old healthy American. I eat meat all the time. I even eat meat when I go to seafood places.
That's meat. Fish is meat.
What is wrong with having a good steak? I don't even overeat. What's the problem with that?
Well, from a health perspective, anything in moderation I suppose you can get away with. From a cruelty to animals perspective, too. Not only will
I
you
don't
stop...
like animals much, though.
Bob, I know you have a soft heart behind that hard persona because I've been watching you for many years and you are a softie. But if you want to live more than 70-some years, if you don't want to end up in a nursing home with a heart attack, stroke, these are the things that start besetting people of your age, then I urge you, get the vegetarian starter kit and let's have the spaghetti with the tomato sauce instead of the meatballs.
Can you believe, Ingrid, that there are some people who would really not care to live if you can't have a good steak once in a while?
Well, that shows it's an addiction, Bob, and you've got to kick that dirty meat habit. Get rid of the corpse cuisine. Come on board. We can teach you how to cook really great stuff. You'll love it, and you will live long and healthy. Don't make faces.
This is one of the few things, actually, that Mr. Novak and I agree on. But you said moderation in all things, and I suppose that's useful. Why not moderate your own messages? You have an organization that has suggested to people, for example, that Jesus Christ was a vegetarian. You ran a billboard in Turin, Italy. Of course, that's not true. Jesus helped his friends catch fish, and he cooked those fish.
There are differing opinions on that, Paul.
You ran a billboard mocking Rudy Giuliani for having prostate cancer. Now, that's really extreme, isn't it?
Well, look, it gets me on your show. I don't get to meet you guys unless we run something extreme. And the fact is that we do all these other things that are moderate and no one shows up. But if we run something amusing or provocative, you'll call. So we want you to call.
Speaking of extremists, Ms. Newkirk, wasn't the most famous vegetarian of the 20th century Adolf Hitler?
No, he wasn't. He actually did have health problems, and he restricted his meat intake, but he was a very vile man, and what we're opposed to is cruelty, so that's a low blow. Don't go there.
I think he was a vegetarian, though. I really do believe it.
No, he wasn't, actually. Albert Schweitzer was a vegetarian, and he was a kind man. Let's think about him. But go to goveg.com, come on board, and get a vegetarian diet and live long.
You got your commercial. Ingrid Newkirk, thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next, it's your chance to fire back at us, and that's just what one of Martha Stewart's defenders is ready to do.
If you'd like to fire back at Crossfire, email us at crossfire@cnn.com. Make sure to include your name and hometown.
With revolutionary new Sirius satellite radio in his car, a man finds he feels more like a man. Does he need to ask for directions? Never. He's got 100% commercial-free music in his car, so there's no need to actually arrive. And just where does a guy with all this entertainment prefer to dine?
Did you want any ketchup with that? Girls?
Why, in his car, of course. Call now and get a $75 mail-in rebate. Sirius satellite radio. You'll never want to leave your car.
Sean Edward, whether you believe in him or not, he's TV's psychic phenomenon, and he's taking your calls tonight, 9 Eastern, on Larry King Live.
Let Empire Glass replace your cracked windshield and we'll pay up to $100 of your comprehensive insurance deductible. And you'll get 24 free dinners to Sherry's, where breakfast, lunch, dinner, and delicious pies and desserts are available 24 hours a day. For the highest quality windshields, including up to $100 off your comprehensive deductible, plus 24 free dinners to Sherry's, call Empire Glass today, 503-251-9881. When you think glass, think Empire.
To celebrate its 100th anniversary, Bassett has authorized the biggest sale in the company's history. Shop now through this weekend at Bassett Furniture Direct, where you'll find factory-authorized savings store-wide. Plus, make no payments and pay no interest charges for 1 entire year on everything. It's the biggest sale in Bassett's history. Bassett's 100th anniversary sale, the 100-year event you won't want to miss.
If your business's growth isn't everything you want it to be, maybe it's time you spoke to me.
I can supply you with research that will show you what your customer is watching.
And I can put together a campaign to reach them.
I can unlock the precise targeting power of cable television.
All to put your business where it needs to be.
Who am I? I'm AT&T Media Services. And I'm here to work for you.
Closed captioning for selected programs provided by the Invention Submission Corporation.
Inventors, Invention Submission Corporation can help you try to patent your idea and submit it to companies.
Call 1-888-778-IDEA for free information.
It's time for Fireback when the viewers have their say about us. The first email from Karen Pear of Alameda, California. I think Martha Stewart is the victim of a modern witch hunt. As a competent, successful woman, she's being punished for doing what men do all the time, looking out for her own interests. As a feminist, Karen, I agree with you 100%.
Jim Busha from Appleton, Wisconsin writes about our debate last night with Michael Newdow about his lawsuit over the use of the word God. Wouldn't taking the word God off our currency and out of the pledge and replacing it with the word greed better define the core values of this nation? It would at least lend some credibility to Bob Novak's constant lament about every dollar he pays in taxes.
Okay. With no comment on that? No. All right. All right, Samantha Coker of Seattle, Washington says, Bob, you claim that the United States is the most successful nation in the world, but 60% of the country is obese. We have one of the worst education systems in the world. Go to Afghanistan and tell them that. We have the highest rate of incarcerated people in the world, and most Americans cannot afford their own health care. So how do you figure we're so successful? Samantha, maybe you ought to leave this country and go to some place like Albania. But what I would say, we're successful because guys like Paul Begala and I have the opportunity to make a living by shooting off our mouths.
That's the greatest freedom of all, believe me. I agree with Bob. Gladys Hamilton in Sun City, Arizona writes about Mr. Novak's claim the other night that all the academics in America are Democrats. She says, Mr. Novak, of course the presidents of universities and colleges are Democrats. The Republicans are either CEOs for the largest corporations or working for the government. Well, that's actually
question.
This is Jenny from Findlay, Ohio, and I was wondering, couldn't GE better use their profits to, say, improve worker conditions or bring more good things to life?
Well, they're improving the worker conditions for Jack Welch, and they've done a good job of that, haven't they?
They should put it to the shareholders. It's their money, not Jack Welch's and not the corporate boards, and the shareholders should decide that. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name's Cody Byrne from Portland, Oregon, and I had a question about Martha Stewart and Jack Welch. In light of the recent revelations about Martha and Jack's finances, you think both could be best served by cooperating and pinching pennies? I think perhaps could Martha decorate Jack's various living rooms, and could Jack potentially help Martha avoid pesky SEC investigators?
Well, I'll tell you this. Jack Welch is not accused of any crime. Martha Stewart is accused of a crime. Let's get real. There are a lot of criminals in the corporate world. Those two aren't among them.
But Welch is a monumental hypocrite. I'm a little personal about it because I wrote good things about him in the last book that I wrote, praised him, and now I find out this stuff about, secret deals and big money, and I don't like it. Yes, sir.
Question.
Bob Novak, tonight you quoted someone as saying what goes around comes around in Bush's judicial nominees. And I think as long as Democrats and Republicans continue to play the games of I'll get you back, this country's never going to get anywhere.
I agree, and I think the Democrats ought to start by going back to the old standards of not even having hearings on judicial nominees. You don't know that. They used to automatically nominate them. If the president said they were good enough, they were good enough.
That's not what the Constitution says. They should look carefully at these people that are appointed for life by a president who didn't even win the election.
Didn't say that in the Constitution. You read the Constitution.
From the left, I'm Paul Begala. Good night for Crossfire.
From the right, I'm Robert Novak. Join us again next time for another edition of Crossfire. Connie Chung tonight begins immediately after a CNN News Alert.
Good evening, I'm Aaron Brown in New York. Here are some of the stories making headlines on this Friday night. A murder trial in Florida, most unusual one, ended today with a jury convicting the young brothers Derek and Alex King of second-degree murder and arson in the beating death of their father. Family friend Ricky Chavez was tried last week for the same crime under a different theory. He was found not guilty. His verdict was sealed until the boy's verdict was delivered today. 7-year-old Daniel Van Dam's convicted killer won't know his fate until at least Monday. The jury that found David Westerfield guilty has gone home for the weekend after deliberating his sentence now for 3 days. This is a death penalty case. Congress returned to its first home, its original home today, to salute the victims and the heroes of September 11th. Congress convened in New York's Federal Hall, which stands in the site of Congress's original meeting place. The somber congressional session was only the second outside of Washington in 202 years. Some good economic news propelled the stock market higher today. Unemployment dropping to 5.7%, down 0.2%. Dow gaining 143 points on the day. The NASDAQ also higher, gaining back 44 points. Not an easy week on the market. Hope you'll join us for Newsnight, 10 o'clock Eastern Time. For all the day's important stories, Connie Chung Tonight is coming up next here on CNN.
Good evening, I'm Connie Chung. 2 boys in Florida are found guilty of killing their father.
The state of Florida versus the King brothers. In a stunning judicial twist, a jury finds both teenagers guilty of murdering their father.
It's unfortunate. There's really no winners. You know, and when this kind of thing happens, but the jury did the right thing.
And a former family friend?
Not guilty.
The boys now face life in prison. The murdered man's father, the boy's grandfather, says that's where they belong. Tracking the terrorists. From the missed signals to how much we've learned. 4 CNN correspondents who've investigated the worldwide terror plot. Mike Betcher.
But now CNN has learned a new, even more frightening volume has been added to the collection.
Sheila McVicker.
Police know Muhammad Atta was here.
Kelly Arena.
There is no specific or credible information regarding an attack against the United States.
And Deborah Fayrick.
So far, the Bureau has yet to establish a direct link between the September 11th hijackings and the anthrax letters.
Open their reporters' notebooks on Al-Qaeda's war against America. Talk about a sweet deal. Ex-GE CEO Jack Welch got a whole lot more than a gold watch and a handshake when he retired. How about a Manhattan penthouse, a private 737, and luxury boxes at major sports events around the world? Power perks. And who's paying for them? This is Connie Chung Tonight, live from the CNN Broadcast Center in New York. Connie Chung.
Good evening. Tonight, the tale of 2 juries. One found 2 teenage boys guilty of beating their father to death with a baseball bat and trying to conceal the crime through arson. The other jury acquitted a family friend of the exact same crime, a man who is a convicted child molester and who allegedly had sexual contact with one of the boys. On the story of this apparently unprecedented double trial, CNN's David Mattingly in Pensacola.
There were 2 juries, but in the end, they were of one mind. First, young brothers Derek and Alex King found guilty of killing their father and setting their house on fire.
Verdict,
We, the jury, find as follows as to count 1 of the indictment. Guilty of second-degree murder, a lesser included offense, without a weapon.
The verdict bringing tears to their choir boy faces. The jury deciding the boys were lying when they accused family friend and convicted child molester Rick Chavez of the murder and of convincing them to confess.
They did do it, and the jury found that they did it. And the jury returned a verdict they thought was appropriate, and I deeply respect that verdict.
Defense for the boys would not comment. Next, over an hour later, Chavez is before the same court.
We, the jury, find as follows as to count 2 of the indictment, not guilty.
Shedding tears himself, as this time the verdict from another jury, sealed since last week, is read.
The public needs to be aware of the grand jury system. They need to understand that, you know, you could indict a cabbage for just about anything in front of a grand jury. They're only there to find probable cause. So the grand jury system, in my opinion, really needs to be looked at.
On trial in the court of public opinion, state prosecutor David Rimmer criticized for pursuing both the brothers and Chavez for the same crime, seemingly vindicated by 2 agreeing verdicts.
And the grand jury chose to indict Mr. Chavez, and so therefore the boys' credibility was at issue. I put them on the stand, and the jury is the one that determines whether or not they believe a witness is telling the truth. If they had believed the boys were telling the truth in court, they could have found Chavez guilty. They didn't believe him.
But Chavez now faces charges as an accessory in the murder, as well as charges of lewd and lascivious conduct with a minor. According to Alex's testimony, he and Chavez were involved in a sexual relationship when Alex was just 12 years old. As for the brothers, the verdict could have been worse. Unlike first-degree murder, murder in the second degree does not carry a mandatory sentence. How much of their young lives that will be spent behind bars will be up to the judge. And that sentencing to take place in October. The boys could appear in court again as witnesses for the prosecution, however, in the cases now pending against Chavez. Connie?
David, you were in the courtroom twice today for 2 different verdicts. Let's deal with the first verdict first. I have to tell you that I gasped when I heard that these boys were found guilty. Was there a gasp in the courtroom?
Nothing like that, but there was a great deal of tension in the courtroom before from everyone, it seemed, except the boys themselves. They walked in just as they had every day. They sat down, they fidgeted in their chairs, they doodled on a pad, they chatted with their attorneys and smiled. It seems like they were the only ones who weren't aware of the gravity of that moment. But of course, when the verdict came down, the boys took it both very hard, both of them shedding tears as they came out of the courtroom.
David, we couldn't see the faces of the jurors. What were their expressions when the verdict was read?
I was watching the jurors also, and I didn't notice them offering any kind of emotion whatsoever. They seemed to be coming about this very businesslike. Again, no emotion from the juror in either of the cases, actually.
Did they have any eye contact with the boys when the verdict was read?
I couldn't see if they were actually having eye contact with the boys. Most of them seemed to be having with their shoulders turned toward the judge a little bit. One thing I did notice in this trial was that the defense attorney for the youngest boy, Alex, very often would put his arm across the back of the chair in almost a very grandfatherly pose with the young boy. And that was one of the last images the jury had as they went out of the courtroom to deliberate. But obviously that image did not play into their verdict.
Now, I understand that the boy's mother, who has not played a big part in their lives, was in the courtroom and was crying. Can you tell us a little more about her?
She is married, she is married and she lives out of state. I talked to her a little bit today. She said that she and her former husband, Terry, the man who was killed by these boys, she said that the 2 of them had joint custody and she had planned to move back closer to Pensacola so that she could be a part of their lives again. Of course, now with them facing possible prison terms, that obviously is not going to happen.
All right, quickly, the second verdict. When that was read and Chavez was found not guilty, was there reaction from the King family?
There was reaction from the relatives of the King brothers that were there in the courtroom today. There was a obvious and a very demonstrative motions of anger that they seem to be having at that verdict. In fact, there were about a dozen or so uniformed officers in the courtroom the family members had to be taken out of the courtroom very quickly after the verdict was read.
All right. David Mattingly, thank you so much. You've done such a good job reporting on this case. And now, we need a little help to understand this bizarre case. And of course, CNN legal analyst Jeffrey Toobin is here. Jeffrey, I have to tell you something that I found out from the co-counsel of Derek, the older brother. His name is Dennis Corder, and he said that the judge in this case, who was the judge for both trials, mind you, that judge in the case, and I need to tell the viewers as well, the judge in the case and all the lawyers in these both trials knew what the verdict was of Mr. Chavez. They knew that he was going to be found not guilty because they read the verdict. The reason why they read the verdict was because the judge said he would actually have a bit of a problem if Chavez was found guilty, and then they proceeded with another trial, which is so obvious, right?
Well,
but
yeah, okay, keep going. No, I don't want to interrupt. Go ahead.
All right. But once they found out that he was not guilty, then they proceeded with the trial. The judge said, go ahead.
You know, a deeply bizarre case gets even stranger with this disclosure, which is really, you know, a mind-bending conclusion to this matter. I think the judge may have created a legal problem for himself by doing what he did, and I'll try to put it simply, but it's a real issue. Remember, the defense in the boys' trial wanted to call Chavez to the witness stand. Mm-hmm. Chavez took the fifth, wouldn't testify. At that point, Chavez had been acquitted. The lawyers knew he'd been acquitted.
Oh, yes.
You can't take the fifth. He had no chance of being re-prosecuted for this crime. It would have been double jeopardy. Mm-hmm. So I don't think would have been any basis for him to take the fifth if they had known that he had been acquitted at that point.
And they did know.
They did know. So I think that's a potential legal problem on appeal.
And when you say that's a potential legal problem, what you mean is that when the boys appeal, which they will, they've got something to hang their hat on.
They might. I mean, they have several things to hang their hats on. I mean, look, let's start from the beginning.
All right.
Most convictions are affirmed on appeal. It is very hard to get convictions overturned. This is an unusual case. And I think that's an issue. And mostly, I think, there is an issue about whether a prosecutor has the right to file charges in the same crime against two different people under completely different theories. I think that is a fundamental issue that any appeals court dealing with this case will have to deal with. Obviously, I mean, and here's the sort of sad element for it for the boys. If they had both been convicted, if Chavez and the boys had been convicted, that would have been a more powerful argument. Mm-hmm. But even just the bringing of the charges, I think, might be a legal problem to support the verdict as well.
All right. Just FYI, and correct me if I'm wrong, Chavez does face other charges.
Absolutely. He did not go home today after he was acquitted.
Because I think that, America could be outraged, saying, oh my God, this child molester gets off, and he isn't even accused of molesting this little boy who,
in fact, he's awaiting
12.
trial on just those charges.
All right. Also, obstruction of justice, something that has to do with this case.
It's related.
Okay. The co-counsel, again, of Derek said that this boy suffers from ADHD. Attention deficit disorder, hyperactivity disorder.
Right.
And he has not been on medication since he's been in jail, which is about 9 months. But he doesn't know if he was on medication at the time of the murder. And, isn't that one of those complicated areas in which there might be some kind of basis for this child either being on his medication or off his medication? Or do you have any idea?
I think that is the kind of issue that the defense attorney should have, if he thought it was an issue, he should have brought it out during the trial.
I see.
I don't see any grounds for overturning the conviction on appeal, especially since you're talking about something, the general rubric of hyperactivity, which is a fairly common issue. It's not like being a psychotic or something, or schizophrenic. It's the kind of thing that I think it was kind of a use it or lose it situation for that particular issue.
They'll be sentenced in October.
October 17th.
Mm-hmm. And they can face up to 30 years or life in prison without the possibility of parole. It's a very strange situation in Florida.
It's an unusual law, and the one good thing that happened to these boys today is that they weren't convicted of first-degree murder, in which case life without parole, end of story. Again, there will be legal complexities here because of the ages of the boys. I am certain the lawyers for the boys will argue that they should be sentenced as juveniles, not as adults, even though they were tried as adults. It's probably a losing argument, but it may persuade the judge to sort of move the ratchet the whole sentencing scheme downward at least somewhat.
We should also say that they face yet another up to 30 years for the arson.
That's a serious, I mean, they weren't just convicted of murder. They were convicted of arson, which is a serious crime in and of itself.
All right. Jeffrey Toobin, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
It's been a wild ride.
I want you to come back anyway and talk about it because I think it'll go on.
Oh, absolutely.
All right. Thank you. Joining us now is a man who's in a position that's unimaginable to most people. His son, Terry King, has been murdered, and today, Wilbur King's grandsons, Derek and Alex, were convicted of the killing. Mr. King, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. Sir, were you surprised at the verdict?
Not really.
Why not?
Well, I had a feeling that my grandsons had a part in my son's murder. I don't hate them. I love them. But I had a gut feeling that they did have a part